Ba-da-ba. What up, what up, what up? It's 8 o'clock on the dot. Mario pulling up on time. Want to get the elephant in the room out the way. Welcome to Hawks Hoops. Every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. As you can see, this is to the Christmas episode. Merry Christmas to everybody. Christmas is this week. It's Saturday, so we had to get festive and put on the ugly Christmas sweater for the Christmas episode. You know what I mean? Had to bring the energy here early. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. I put on my Instagram story. I'm excited, but I need y'all help. I'm gonna keep it real. Could we talk for a second? I need y'all help because it's I ain't watched as much basketball, I feel like, as I wanted to this past week. I just was real busy this weekend. We hosted a Christmas party. I've been doing a whole lot of stuff, and so I got some topics. But I would love if you guys would call in, pull up with the kid. And sure, Stream Deck is running. Oh, running. My fault, y'all. Trying to get my Stream Deck in order, but it want to act up. So we gonna still make it work. We still gonna have a good show. First thing on the docket, because it is Christmas, we're gonna talk about COVID in a little bit. But I really don't want to start off the show with talking about COVID and health and safety protocols and what the league has been doing. I want to give a Christmas miracle to two Christmas miracles I'd like to see. One in the Eastern Conference and one in the Western Conference. In the spirit of Christmas, while we got on the ugly sweater, let me cut the fan on a little higher because it's a little hot in here. Two Christmas miracles I want to see. And the first one is, we're going to start in the Western Conference. And that first one is, I really hope the Kings make the play-in. And this is a twofold. And I hope the spot that they take is the Portland Trailblazers spot. I really, really hope that the Kings make the play-in. And, oh, hold on real quick. Because I already know I'm going to get yelled at if I don't got it right. You know what I mean? Bada bing, bada boom. We got the phone number up. We're opening up the call lines. You feel me? Boom. You know what I mean? I can't be getting yelled at because the phone lines are open. When do I work for the NBA? Look, I'm going to take that as the biggest compliment I have ever received. No, I do not work for the NBA. It is a dream of mine to one day work for the NBA. But until then, we're going to create our own lane and we're going to talk about NBA on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, like the video if you haven't already. Hang out. This show happens every Wednesday at 8 p.m. This could be your weekly NBA show if you give it a shot. But like I was saying earlier, I want to talk about my Western Conference Christmas wish is that the Kings make the play-in tournament and that the Portland Trailblazers don't, for lack of a better phrase. I'm gonna let you know what the standings are right now. Give me a half a second. So right now, Kings are the 10th seed. They're 13 and 19. The Blazers are the 11th seed, also at 13 and 19, but I'm pretty sure the Kings have their tiebreaker right now, so that's why they're ahead of them. In a perfect world, and let me explain why I want this. In a perfect world, the Kings make the playoffs, at least the play-in, just to give this fan base some semblance of a postseason. The Kings haven't been in the postseason since 2007. People, I'm pretty sure that is the current longest playoff drought in the league. And the play-in tournament really ain't even the playoffs. It's just some postseason action. They can lose in the first game, and that would still be better than what they've been dealing with. You know, they could not make the playoffs. They could lose in the play-in tournament, and just that little bit of taste of postseason greatness, postseason glory, just being in the postseason for that little bit, I feel like it would be worth it for this fan base that has stuck with this team for years. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, this is why I have a couple of teams I root for. Because I mean, I'm still gonna root for you. I'm still gonna want you to be great, but I'm not tuning into every game when I know you're not making the playoffs. So Kings fans that are tuning in the games, I commend you because you're doing the Lord's work. And on the flip side of this, like I said, I hope the Trailblazers don't. I repeat, I hope the Trailblazers do not make the playoffs. At this rate, I hope they don't make the playoffs. I hope they don't make the play-in, because I think this is the perfect opportunity for them to finally realize, building around Dame and CJ, at least in the way they have so far in these past at least 4 seasons, doesn't work. It's not going to work. I don't think they have the capability to put together a legitimate team around these two guys, because if they had that option, if they had the skill set to do that, they would have done it already. We would have seen a good team, a true championship contender out of Portland in the last 3-4 seasons. But we're not. But we haven't seen it yet. And why? Who knows? You know what I mean? There's a lot of different reasons that you can what's I'm looking for? Make the argument for why the Portland Trailblazers have been struggling over the last couple of seasons. Not even talking about this season alone, because this season alone, I mean, they're struggling for a lot of reasons. Dame is not being Damian Lillard. Health and safety protocol is killing them. But mainly Dame's not being Damian Lillard. And this shows you how much this team is built around Dame. And if Dame's not having a good night, then the team's going to suffer. And then that makes sense. At the end of the day, that does make sense. Dame is a superstar, and most teams are built around their superstar. So if their superstar isn't playing well, they're going to lose some games. I don't think I've ever watched a Kings game. Bro, listen, not many people do watch Kings games, unless you're a diehard Kings fan or you just trying to see something. Like, sometimes I'll see the Kings play, I don't know, another young team. Like, if it's Kings Grizzlies, I might tune into that because it's two young teams. I want to see who's the better out of the two young teams out west. That's the type of instance when you watch the Kings. But if the Kings are playing a legit playoff team, you don't turn on the Kings. But that's my Western Conference playoff wish. Out east, my Christmas wish for the Eastern Conference. And you would think, me being a Sixers fan, a lot of people would think that it would be a Sixers Christmas wish, that we would somehow find a trade for Ben Simmons. But that's not my wish. Truly, that's not my wish. My wish, because I really like these two young players, and I think the landscape of the league is not, I won't say turning their back on these guys, but I don't think they realize how good these players are. Does that make sense? Like, at the top right, click. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Let me just double check, make sure my sound is on. Calls. All right, bet. So if we get a call, it should ring. I'll say that. It should ring. If you feel like calling in, phone lines are open, it should ring. My Christmas miracle, I guess you could say, my Christmas wish for the Eastern Conference. It's not Sixers related, like I said. It's about two young players who I feel like the NBA landscape is starting to turn their back on, or starting to think or rethink how good these players are. Starting to wonder if they can play well together. And that is, I really hope that the Boston Celtics figure out how to make Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum work together. Because I truly, truly think they could. I think they could be a dynamic 1A and 1B duo on a really, really good Boston team. And if you ask me, what is my example? What is my case statement for making this statement? Like, how do I think they can work together? What is the evidence? Look at the Chicago Bulls. It's DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine show. It's 1A and 1B. I would say right now, probably DeMar is the better of the two right now, but that could be to some of Zach LaVine being a little younger. Rapson. What's good, man? How you doing? Thanks for pulling up to the show. Leave a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. You know what I mean? It's the DeMar and Zach LaVine show in Chicago. And I think they've proven that when you give them a point guard who can distribute the ball very, very well, when you give them a dynamic six-man type player who can play good defense but also score a little bit, Alex Caruso, and you give them who should be on paper a pretty solid stretch big who can be good offensively and shoot a little bit on paper. That's what they brought him here to do. Vucevic is struggling a little bit this season. But I think the Bulls in one season managed to put together what Boston is trying to put together for the last, we'll say, 3 seasons. And I don't think that it means Raps in 7, sir. Oh, Raps in 7. Dang. Hey, man, that's why the show's live. Because you gonna have moments like that when I'm trying to talk, say what's up to somebody, pull it in the chat, and completely misread their name. Raps in 7, what's good with you? How you doing? And I think the Boston Celtics have tried to do something like that, right? The Boston Celtics tried it with, I think that's what Kemba was supposed to be. Kemba was supposed to be their dynamic point guard. Al Horford was supposed to be that stretch big. Marcus Smart is supposed to be that two guard that can play good defense and shoot a little bit. Like the pieces are there, I just don't think they're meshing. And I think in Boston's case, it starts at the point guard position. I think that over the last, I guess I'll say 3 years of them trying to make this team work, I don't think they've had the right point guard for the situation. I think if we go back in Boston's history, recent history, starting with signing Kyrie. Kyrie was there for this to be Kyrie's team, which made perfect sense to me. It was supposed to be Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. They were supposed to replicate, basically, to an extent, a lesser version of LeBron James and Kyrie. Like, that was the blueprint. Boston just happened to have these two young studs that went crazy the year that both of those guys were injured. Now they realize they got these two young studs that are potential all-star caliber players, and it doesn't work with Kyrie and Hayward. They move on from Hayward. They move on from Kyrie. They try to bring in Kemba Walker to kind of sort of replace what Kyrie was for this team. But they didn't put into a thought process that what Kyrie brought was a lot of scoring, not so much ball handling. I mean, distribution and playmaking. Kyrie can play make. Please don't get that twisted. That's just not what he was bringing to that Boston Celtics team at the time. Kemba Walker didn't necessarily work because Kemba is nowhere near the scorer that Kyrie is. But he's also not the playmaker that Kyrie is, and Kyrie's not even that great of a playmaker. So you just had a lesser version of Kyrie on both fronts, and I think that's why it didn't necessarily work with Kemba, and they moved on from him. Moved and decided to go in a different direction, pick up Dennis Schroeder. Now the Boston Celtics are a little bit better on paper. They should be. I actually personally liked the Dennis Schroeder fit. I thought he could be a good fit. I thought he could be a point guard who would play his role. Even though he's a point guard that was about to get paid $84 million, and $84 million is a quality starting point guard in the league. Like, that's quality starting guard type money. But I still think he could have been a point guard that would have played his role on this Boston team, fit in. Jason is too inconsistent and is a volume shooter. He needs to be a better playmaker as well. We're going to speak on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in a second because I think both of those players get a lot of heat, and I don't think people realize how young they are. But we're going to talk about that in 2 seconds. And I thought Dennis Schroeder could fit in a whole lot better than he has been. And they've been hit with a lot of COVID stuff. Jaylen Brown's only played like half of their available games. Everybody's been hit with a lot of COVID stuff, but they're just really struggling right now. And I'm not really sure what to expect from them and what they could do moving forward. But we're going to take our first caller right now. Thank you for calling in on the Hawks Hoops. This is your boy Hawk. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with?
What up, Hawk? This is Jake.
What up, Jason? How you doing?
Good. I want to touch on that topic that you was talking about with Boston.
Okay.
Problem, you brought up a point with Zach LaVine in Chicago. I think you left something out on there. They know how to separate what's going on. It seems like the league is trying to push more of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I think that they're the same player. I think they'll be better if you switch them out to other teams. I don't know if they're going to win together because Jaylen Brown is just as good as Jason Tatum. And that 1A, 1B perspective is not there for them. Now, in Chicago's situation, DeMar DeRozan is seasoned. He's come a long way. And he's worked on that mid-range killer. In the fourth quarter, you know who's getting the ball. You know what I'm saying?
It's his ball in the fourth quarter. DeMar DeRozan is killing in the clutch.
Right. So Zach LaVine has taken that process of the step to be like, all right, big bro, you got this. You are the alpha on this situation. And that Boston stuff, Tatum ain't doing that. You really don't know who. Like, Tatum trying to get his shot, even though Brown might be the better option, and they just have not dignified, like, yo, who's going to be that 1A and who's going to be that 1B. So I think it's time to probably just, I'm not a fan of the Sixers by any means, and I know it would never happen. But getting rid of a Jaylen Brown, because it don't look like they're going to get rid of Tatum. Getting rid of a Jaylen Brown for, what's the guy that? Ben Simmons.
Yeah. And
I think that you see Jaylen Brown and B probably work a little bit better. And the reason why Kemba didn't work there, he was a bum, man. Come on, man, stop it. Kemba ain't even work in New York. Kemba worked in Charlotte in a small market. He's not Terry Rozier. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Kemba
And
didn't
I
work
mean,
because Kemba's
really,
an inefficient scorer. Kemba reminds me of like a 2000s guard when we were happy when guards were 40% from the field and like
Kemba's Muggsy
35%
Bogues.
from three. He
A
reminds
little,
me of that type of guard.
he's a
And
little
I don't
better
think that
Muggsy
guard
Bogues, man.
fits. What'd you say?
It doesn't fit in the league anymore. I see like a
Yeah,
little
that's what I'm
better
saying.
Muggsy Bogues.
Yeah,
He's
like a better
he's
Muggsy
not
Bogues.
that
I'd
guy.
agree. And I don't think that guard fits in the league today. And you make some really good points about Tatum and Brown. Only pushback I'll give on this is yes, when they compare them to DeRozan, DeMar, and Levine, yes, Levine gives the ball to DeMar because DeMar has proved himself. Because one, he's older, like you said, he's a seasoned vet. He's had all them
Right.
years in Toronto where he was the guy, and now he knows how to be a closer. And Jason Brown and Jason Tatum's case, those guys are so young still. Like it blew my
Yeah,
mind when I
but you
looked
know
up how
what?
young they are. They're so young.
My cousin put me on to that. My cousin Romy said, he's the same guy. Look at his stats. I don't like to give that man too much props, but he's right, And I
Who's
think
the same
Jaylen
guy?
Brown.
No. They are the same player. I'm not saying one
Um,
player is better than the other. I'm just saying if I'm the Celtics, I personally wouldn't blow it up yet because you really don't have to. Jaylen Brown's 25, Jason Tatum's 23. They're extremely young players still. And to me personally, I think they can still grow into being a legit 1A and 1B. And where they figure out who's going to be the closer, where they figure out who's going to have the ball most of the game and get their buckets that way and carry the team. And then maybe who figure out who has the ball in the fourth quarter. I think part of that comes down to coaching too. I don't think Brad Stevens was as great as a coach as the NBA tried to make us believe. And now that we've seen that necessarily didn't work, and now he's in the front office, and now they have a brand new head coach. So I think there's a lot of things going on in Boston that could get better for this team. And I think it comes down to if I was Brad Stevens, I'm continuing to build around those two because I really think they could work with a point guard who could run their offense better. I don't think they have someone who can run their offense.
If I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm out of there. This has not worked.
Really?
It's time to get out. Heck yeah. For what purpose? Go to another team. He can, Now you brought up a topic of the CJ, and I don't want to take too much of your time on the CJ and Dame thing. Probably people don't want to play in Portland. It's just like your man got lucky in Milwaukee, right? He got just the right players, just the right time to get that chip. Don't nobody want to play out there. You know what I mean? So if I'm Jaylen Brown, I look at my options. Well, I don't know who has the lesser of the contract, but I would look at my options, man. Tatum gets the rock. He gonna always get the rock. So I might go to I don't know if you want to go to a New York Knicks or if you want a team, with a Dame or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard. Everybody's trying to make their relevance of a big three or even go down to Philly. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the reason why Chicago works the way that it does, and I didn't think it would, is Zach is really taking a good back seat, and they got a lot of good role players.
Yeah.
Lonzo, you talked about everybody. You ain't talk about Lonzo. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Lonzo's playing defense, and in the nights that he got to give you a little bit, I might have missed it, so I'm sorry.
No.
And the nights he got to
And
give
that's
you a
why I
little
think
bit.
they're so good because they have Lonzo. They have that point guard who can run their offense and play great
But then
defense.
you got Caruso coming off the bench.
Yep.
You got, Kobe White. They got a team, which
A
for
better
years
constructed team. I agree.
Chicago never had a team. And you got to have a bunch of players. Like Chicago really got Lonzo for a steal the way he progressed up.
Yeah.
And that was because the Pelicans didn't want to pay no money. So you got to go into a situation like that where players want to play and, where they get that opportunity and the coach is making it clear, I mean, look at DeRozan going against Bron the other night. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's a complete different guy than in Toronto. You would have never seen DeRozan doing that kind of stuff.
No.
Versus in Toronto. So, but yeah, man, I think it's time to blow them up, man. That's all I want to give my 2 cents there.
I feel that.
Buddy,
Okay.
good talking to you.
Good talking. Thank you for calling in. For blowing up Boston. Jason made some really good points. But like I said earlier, talking to him, I'm going to have to disagree. I think Boston can figure it out. I just hope they got to build a better team. Like he said on the call, the Bulls have a better team. The Bulls have actual players on their team that contribute to winning basketball. I don't think Boston has that. I don't know what moves they got to make to make that happen. It might mean you got to blow that team up. I don't know, but I think they could work together personally. Next, real quick, I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about COVID, right? COVID's running through the league. We're 20 minutes into the episode. I'm hoping I'm not going to keep you guys too long tonight. So we might come back to talking about some potential trades, but nothing seems to really be happening in the NBA. People just chatting. But COVID is happening in the NBA, and it's really affecting a lot of things. So if you're like me and have either Woj or Shams or basically those two on Twitter notifications turned on, which I do because I'm a nerd, it feels like literally every hour on the hour somebody gets either called in the health and safety protocol, or you find out that they're off now health and safety protocol, and it's basically it's impossible to keep up with. It's not even hard to keep up with. It's impossible to keep up with. And it's to the point now that 25% of the league has been in health and safety protocol at one point. So that's like 120 players out of like I think it's like 480 something players in the league. So 25% of that have been in health and safety protocol. And I think we're getting to the point now that a lot of people are asking, because it ramped up so much in December, which a lot of people figured it would happen because of Thanksgiving. Players were around families, people were traveling, families were flying in to see players, or players were flying out to see families. And it was just a lot of movement, a lot of Omicron going crazy. And recently, literally, I want to say it was either earlier today or yesterday. Was it today? December 21st? Is today the 21st? Okay, so yesterday, the commissioner, Adam Silver, went on ESPN with Malika Andrews, had a conversation to basically address COVID and how it's affecting the league right now. And basically said that the league's not doing anything. Like, the league is going to continue doing what they have been doing. They're not necessarily looking and canceling any games right now, like for like any type of actual break. They'll postpone games. They have been postponing games. They'll probably continue to postpone games if teams don't have enough players. Well, actually, they might not. They have to do it as much. I'll tell you why in a second. And they basically said that Silver's position on not stopping play is keeping with the memo. The league sent out a memo on Sunday saying that teams basically have more flexibility to add players to their teams before to get what's called a hardship signing, or I want to say it was like a hardship signing, replacement players, basically. All these players are getting signed to a 10-day that you've heard about. Isaiah Thomas got signed to a 10-day. I just heard Joe Johnson got signed to a 10-day. I want to say Lance Stevenson got signed to a 10-day. So all these former NBA players, some guys that are coming up from the G League, some guys who might not even been in the G League but just stayed active, are getting called up to these 10-day contracts. A lot of former NBA players, because teams now have the ability to more freely sign replacement players to 10-day contracts. Before, it was that you needed at least three players to get on health and safety to sign a 10-day. Joe Johnson can say this. I'm not going to say all of that personally. I am excited to see him back on that team, though, because fun fact, that's the team who drafted him. I found that out today. I did not know they drafted him. And now that teams basically have the ability to sign a replacement player after one person gets put on health and safety protocol instead of waiting for three players. And if you have more than two players on health and safety protocol, you're required to sign somebody. So the league, essentially, that requirement piece is interesting to me because, I mean, they're signing players on 10-day contracts, right? Most of the players they're signing on 10-day contracts are either washed former NBA players. I don't want to use the word washed. I'll say former NBA players like Isaiah Thomas, Lance Stevenson, Joe Johnson, or a lot of G League guys, like the lineup that the Miami Heat ran with a couple of days ago, or like a week ago. I looked up and I was like, I don't recognize half the guys on the court right now. And what's interesting to me about the requirement piece is you need 7 players to play a game. Like, that's a league rule. You need 7 players to play a game, or it's either forfeited or the league can postpone your game. In order to not have to postpone as many games, the league's now requiring teams to sign these replacement players. Now, what happens when you have some of your elite players that start going down in health and safety protocols? We've had times when James Harden was out before. LeBron went in and out of health and safety protocol within like 30 minutes by taking a couple tests. I want to say Kevin Durant's on health and safety protocol right now, but honestly, I can't remember off the top of my head. Like I said, it's too many players to keep track of. But when you start to get so many players in health and safety protocol on either one team, or you have just multiple superstars in health and safety protocol that are just players that are really important to their teams, it starts to affect the product of basketball that's being played on the court. And it makes me almost feel that because the NBA, like I said, by them telling teams you have to sign these 10-day players, either G Leaguers or very former NBA players, I feel like it's bringing the product of the NBA basketball that the fans get to watch on a regular basis down. I feel like it's hurting the NBA product because at the end of the day, I mean, the NBA is a product. It's a product that we all love because you got to really love basketball to be watching this. And, you know, as much as we watch the game, we clearly love basketball. The NBA, I should say, because I'm not pulling up to my local high school gym and watching basketball on a regular. But we clearly love the NBA. And so I think it just hurts the NBA product. The fact that the NBA is telling teams they have to sign these 10-day players. The fact that the NBA, as of now, is saying we're not canceling any games. We're not taking any time off. And that we might look up and have some games where you cut the TV on and you're like, yo, I really do not know anybody on this lineup. And the NFL delayed games because of this. See, G said the same thing. See, other leagues are starting to move some things, do some things. But I think the NBA right now, it's too early in the NBA season. Like when you really think about it, yeah, we're about a third of the way into the season. It's Christmas time. It feels like the time where a lot of people say the NBA season really gets started. That's usually what people say. Them Christmas Day games, for some people, that's their first NBA game they watch that season, and that's kind of what gets them into the NBA, into the feel of watching NBA games. But even these Christmas Day games, they're not about to be as good as we want them to be. Like the jokes of it's going to be like the jokes of just the random players on the marketing materials instead of seeing like, I can't even remember who the Christmas Day games are off the top of my head. I want to say the Lakers are supposed to play the Nets. But what we're going to see is it's just not going to be, personally, I just don't think it's going to be as good as the product on the NBA floor. I mean, because we don't have the right players there. We don't have the real players. But on the flip side of that, because I don't want to talk too much about the NBA product, but on the flip side, because I know we're going to hear it, the Lakers should be playing Mavs and Utah should be playing the Nets. Yeah, they're not moving teams. As of now, they're keeping the same lineup. So I just found it to read it off. The Knicks are playing the Hawks. The Bucks are playing the Celtics. The Suns are playing the Warriors. The Lakers are playing the Nets. And the Jazz are playing the Mavericks. Those games aren't going to be as good as people think because all those teams are getting hit with health and safety protocol. Luka just got put in health and safety protocol today. Oh, I just seen G put that in the chat. But I mean, it's just not, it's going to stink. However, big caveat. I just spent the last 10 minutes telling you how bad the league is because of the state of COVID and the state of the current NBA, right? I just told you how bad the product on the floor potentially could get. However, after I spent all that time saying that, I do not want to hear that this year's championship has an asterisk. I don't want to hear that this year's playoffs were easier than previous years. I don't want to hear that whoever wins at the end, people saying, well, it was a COVID year. This player was out. That player was out. I get it. But there's going to be, I'm going to say what I always say. You only can play who's in front of you. So every team's going to has to just deal with this. It sucks. But I just don't want to hear an asterisk like we heard with the bubble. Like everybody had an asterisk on the bubble. They call it a Disney. They call it the Disney Championship, whatever. And I mean, it's fun to make fun of and make the jokes. I've made a couple of jokes before. You can probably find them somewhere. You know what I mean? But if you really ask me if I think there's an asterisk on the 2020 championship, my answer is going to be no. Because every team that was in the playoffs all still had the same circumstances. You know what I mean? Like they was all in the bubble. The bubble sucked for players, at least from what I've read in interviews and stuff. But it sucked for all of them equally. Like they were all just there. So it's not the same, but it's similar. Every team has to deal with health and safety protocol, unfortunately. Now, some players can do it more than others in terms of really trying to isolate themselves. I'm sure there are players that are spending time with friends and family, yada, yada, yada. And I'm not saying your job should take up your life, because at the end of the day, the NBA is your job, and my job definitely don't take up my whole life. So players are going to do what players are going to do, and they're going to live their lives, and they're going to do whatever they want to do. I just really, really hope us as fans and NBA media doesn't come up with this asterisk narrative at the end of this season because of COVID, because of health and safety protocol. Because on top of, while we do have health and safety protocol, while we do have COVID going on, we have some players playing at all-time level play right now. You know what I mean? Kevin Durant is going crazy. Kyrie is going. I mean, Curry is going crazy. That's what I meant to say. Jokic is going crazy, putting up historic PER numbers and stuff like that. So, yes, COVID is going crazy, but I just really hope people don't harp on it too much and not still enjoy the basketball that we do get to see. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's supposed to just be entertainment. So enjoy it, people. 2 quick hits before we get up out of here. The first one, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Miami Heat. They're 6-4 in their last 10 games. They're doing okay in the month of December. If you don't remember, probably like one of my last videos right before I got married in November was me saying I hope the Heat do well, because we just got the news that Bam Adebayo was going out. Had a couple of guys in and out still with health and safety protocol. Joel, best big man in the league after getting COVID too. Hey, Joel Embiid. We'll get back to Miami in a second. Joel Embiid is playing amazing basketball. We just saw him go crazy in the clutch against the Celtics the other day when he dropped 41. Basically hit 3 mid-range jumpers in a row. That last jumper to give him the lead and ice the game was that step-back jumper. I don't know how many 7-footers in the league is doing that. And actually, I do know how many 7-footers in the league are doing that. It's just one. Joel. He's different. But getting back to my Miami Heat shout out, back in November, I said I was worried about them because we just got the news that Bam was going out. They had a bunch of players in and out with health and safety protocol. At the time, I want to say Jimmy Butler was out. Duncan Robinson was basically out because he was playing horrible. Lowry was out. Like they had a lot of issues going on with that Miami Heat team. And there's 6-4 in their last 10. Now, 6-4 ain't crazy. You know what I mean? 6-4 ain't nothing to go wild, go stupid, go crazy about. However, 6-4 is keeping them 4th in the Eastern Conference standings. They're currently 19-13. I mean, the Bucks are right on their heel, but they won the tiebreaker over them because they just beat them recently. And I just wanted to give some love to this Miami Heat team because they're doing their thing. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the Nets saying they're going to bring back Kyrie Irving and starting his process back to come in and rejoining the team. Leo just asked, before we talk about Kyrie, Leo just asked, do you think KD is the MVP? When I'm watching him, he seems unstoppable. KD is basically a 7-footer with Curry-like shooting. I think, it was funny, right? My actual MVP would probably, as of right now, it's actually a really hard question. It shouldn't be this hard. Just gotta pick somebody, right? Yeah, I'd have to get the MD. If the league were to end right now, the NBA season were to be over right now, as of right now, as much as Steph Curry is playing out of his mind NBA basketball, he looks absolutely unstoppable. I'd have to give the MVP to Kevin Durant, only because the narrative that's going on his MVP campaign. We're going to talk about Kyrie Irving in a second, but the fact that Kyrie's been out, the fact that James Harden, for at least the first 3/4 of the season so far, has been there, but basically been out because he's been trash. And the fact that he has this Nets team sitting number 1 in the conference at 21-9. That's impressive. They won 7 out of their last 10. Now, I'm pretty sure Kevin Durant got put in health and safety protocol recently. I may be wrong, but let's see. I can't find any headline about Kevin Durant being in or out. I want to say I saw him out, but I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I think he's out for health and safety. Every headline for Kevin Durant that I just looked up was about him calling that kid trash when he did that travel and that video that went viral on Twitter. And he said, "This stinks." And yes, the fact that he's coming back, Leo just said, yeah, coming back from the Achilles and still doing this, it's impressive. I think impressive is an understatement. It's shocking. It's literally shocking. I don't think a lot of anybody really expect him to come back and play at this level. I think he proved that he could still play at that level when he came back in the playoffs, and we saw what he did against Giannis, dropping 50 in that loss. Was that 50 in that loss? Well, we seen how he pushed the Bucks to 7. And I just think that it should be Kevin Durant. His narrative is there, the injury is there, and the play is there as well. The level of play is there. But the Nets also just announced that they're bringing back Kyrie Irving. He's starting the process of coming back and joining the team. He has to go through some tests. He has to test negative X amount of times. I want to say he also, the same day they announced that he's coming back is the same day he entered health and safety protocol. Now, the interesting thing about the health, when the NBA announces health and safety protocol, I still can't tell if that means that player has actually caught COVID or does that player just might have contact tracing to someone who had COVID. And they're waiting to see if he tests negative or not, because you can test negative out of health and safety protocol. So I'm not exactly sure where Kyrie is in his process of his negative test and yada yada. But they have said they want to bring him back. New York City has not lifted their mandate that you must be vaccinated to be in public spaces. So he cannot play in home games. He can practice with the team. He can go to the workout facility. He can use all of their facilities because they're privately owned facilities, but the stadium itself is public properties or a public space, I'll say. So he cannot attend any games in Brooklyn. Thanks for answering my question. Appreciate you. Go stay safe. Merry Christmas. Appreciate you, Leo. Merry Christmas to you as well. And I just thought it was actually ironic that the reason Kyrie is not playing isn't, let's be clear, we all know this is not anything to do with his health or anything like that. It's because he doesn't want to get vaccinated. So take that with how you will. Whether you pro-vax, anti-vax, honestly, I was about to say I don't care. I do care. Please go get vaccinated. And the fact that he didn't want to get vaccinated, and the Nets in the beginning, they stood their ground, which made sense to me. I'm giving you all this backstory because I want to tell you what makes sense to me. It made sense to me for the Nets to be like, you can't play. Like, we're not doing this. You play in away games, or you only practice in, and then you're not here for home games. You either all in or you're all out, which I got, which made perfect sense to me. One, from a basketball standpoint, but also two, from a Nets organization trying to keep their players as safe as possible. Having another player unvaccinated around your players is just, I feel like, asking COVID to spread rampant on your team. And again, your opposing players as well. Like, I wouldn't want to knowingly play against somebody who's unvaccinated, like knowingly. But Kevin Durant started doing Kevin Durant things. James Harden was playing like James Harden was. And while the Nets were winning games, especially, obviously they're number one in the East, 21 and, what did I just say? 21 and 3, 21 and 4, 21 and 9, excuse me. So obviously the Nets were winning games. However, the same thing I had basically said last week, right before they announced he was going to be cleared to come back or start the process to come back, was that the Nets needed more offense. The Nets needed help. That Kevin Durant should not have to drop, I want to say it was 50 against the Pistons and then a 30-point triple-double against the Raptors in overtime. He shouldn't have to do all of that. Kevin Durant shouldn't be, I want to say he's top 5 in minutes played right now. Coming off an Achilles in December, he should not have to play all of these minutes. He should not have to get all of these buckets. We know who Kevin Durant is, but we should also be able to let Kevin Durant save this Kevin Durant level play for the playoffs, because we know we're going to need it because the East is good this year. So the Nets eventually folded and said, well, Kyrie, you can come back and play road games because we need offense. We need your 25, 26 a game or 50, 40, 90 shooting that he put up last season. And I mean, you can call me a hater, but I don't like the idea personally, like for a lot of reasons. I mean, starting just COVID-wise, to me, it's dumb to say, hey, unvaccinated player that we haven't let play all season because we wanted you to get vaccinated. Psych, you can come back now and infect more of your teammates and more of the NBA. You can now come back and play. That's the top of the list of just, I think that's dumb. Getting down to basketball wise, then basketball, like the sport of basketball, I also think it's dumb because what sense does it make? I mean, because I get it. They need offense bad. But to have someone of Kyrie's caliber only play away games, I feel like it's going to mess this team up more than it's going to help this team. The games he plays, you're going to be like, yo, this is great. The Nets are looking great. They're going to look good with him on the floor. But I feel like they're going to look... What's I'm looking for? The peaks and valleys between the peak being when he plays versus the valley of when he doesn't play is going to be so drastically different that I think it's going to really show the glaring weaknesses on this team, because I think they were starting to get it together a little bit as some of the other guys realized they really got to step up their offense. I feel like they were starting to bring back Blake Griffin a little bit. I was liking what I was seeing from why is his name slipping my mind? Power forward. Used to play in Portland. Then he went to the Spurs. Now he's here. He had a heart problem. He had to sit out. LaMarcus Aldridge. Thank you. LaMarcus Aldridge we've seen a lot from. But I think adding Kyrie is going to do more harm for this team than good. Because I think the other guys are going to get reliant on Kyrie's offense. I think they're going to settle into Kyrie being there to help bail them out, to help play make. And I think it'll be beneficial for Kevin Durant while he's on the court, because it'll be another guy. Like, they won't be able to double Kevin Durant as much. They won't be able to put as much attention on Kevin Durant because Kyrie's on the court. Makes perfect sense. But I think for those other guys, it's going to hurt. And I think you're going to see it in their home games. Like, what do they do in a playoff series? What do the Nets do in a playoff series where they don't have home court advantage? What do they do in a Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals where the Bucks have home court advantage and now Kyrie can't play in Game 7? Like, let's really think about this. How do you game plan? Like, your game plan changes completely. I feel like I'm rambling here and I'm sorry, but it really doesn't make sense to me. Your game plan completely changes from when Kyrie's on the court then versus Kyrie's off the court. Are you going to run two different game plans? It could be back, like, two different game plans in the same week because you got a home game on Tuesday, but you got a away game on Thursday. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally. Like, I don't know. It don't make sense to me. I'm not going to harp on it too much longer. Appreciate you all for tuning into the show. Thank y'all. Jason, big shout out to you for calling in. Shout out to everybody who typed in the comments, dropped some thoughts, joined the conversation. I always truly appreciate that. Thanks for rocking with the kid. And Merry Christmas. I will see y'all next week. Hope y'all have a safe, happy Merry Christmas with you and your family, family and friends. Stay safe out there. COVID going crazy. And we will see you next week. I'm out. Peace.